consensus on the Republican side that this is something that ought to be looked at.
The House Intelligence Committee Chair, Devin Nunes, he is demanding answers to find out what President Obama and his cohorts knew.
We have found collusion. We found collusion between the Democrats and the Russians.
Everybody wants to blame this on the Trump administration. Let's not forget that this happened under the Obama administration.
Democrats outrage as the Trump administration pushes low-cost health care plans as alternatives to Obamacare.
Lets them be flexible so people can get lower-cost plans if they choose to.
Most people have to struggle to make ends meet. So now we're not talking about that.
Important listening meeting where the president's going to be listening to victims and survivors of school shootings to say, where do we go from here to stop it in its tracks?
Right. That will be at the White House. Today at the White House, President Trump will welcome the Florida community grieving after that deadly Parkland shooting last week.
This, as the president also pushes for a ban on bump stocks and tougher background checks.
And that might just be the beginning. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington with what we can expect today. Hey, Griff.
Hey, good morning, guys. That's right. The president is responding to the tragedy at Stoneman Douglas, aiming to take actions to end the senseless violence.
We must do more to protect our children. We have to do more to protect our children. School safety is a top priority for my administration.
First, he's moving to ban the rapid-fire bump stocks used in last year's massacre.
After the deadly shooting in Las Vegas, I directed Attorney General to clarify whether certain bump stock devices, like the one used in Las Vegas, are illegal under current law. We must move past cliches and tired debates and focus on evidence-based solutions and security measures that actually work.
Under the Obama administration, the ATF concluded the devices could not be regulated, but now the DOJ says they're acting quickly to propose new regulations. And Democrat Senator Dianne Feinstein, who's been a voice on gun control, issued this statement saying, words are one thing, Mr. President, but we need meaningful action. If you want these devices off the street, call congressional Republicans and tell them to stop blocking the bill. Now, whether Congress has the will to act or not, that's unclear, but even the NRA said last October that they backed further regulations on these devices. Now, on background checks, the president wants to get tougher on keeping the guns out of the wrong people's hands, tweeting, whether we are Republican or Democrat, we must now focus on strengthening background checks. And as you mentioned, guys, this afternoon the president meets with parents, teachers, and students from the Parkland community, as well as Sandy Hook and Columbine, to hear their ideas. We can expect that conversation to range from gun control measures to even mental health. It'll be fascinating to see what those students have to say after the meeting.
Right about that. All right, Griff, thank you very much. Also, keep in mind that in addition to any federal changes, each and every state does have control over gun sales in their states, so they have to be involved in it as well.
The president's been on his toes on this in that right away went down there, and then you could say, okay, first off, let's look at bump stocks. Second, let's look at what happened in Texas, and that is enforcing the gun laws that are on the books, and then listening where we can go from here. What I thought was one of the most important revelations that's not getting enough attention is that out of the 10 guns this kid had, 3 were illegal. One was an AK-47.
So they were purchased illegally.
They were purchased illegally. So you could come down and say background checks and this and that, and then you could say, well, they're going to go find a way to get him anyway.
All right, well, the president's going to sit down with the community members from Parkland, also from Columbine and from Newtown, and then he's meeting with law enforcement tomorrow. Also in the news today, Republicans are launching that phase 2 of the Trump dossier investigation. Do you remember we told you that Devin Nunes, remember when he released that first memo, we said there was going to be phase 2?
That was phase 1.
That was phase 1. Today, they're announcing phase 2.
And what phase 2 is what he's trying to do is he's put out a questionnaire of 10 different questions, sent out to about 24 current and former members of the intel community, DOJ, and law enforcement and FBI as well. And essentially what they're trying to do is figure out when exactly did you realize that this dirty dossier was being used to get this FISA thing? Also, who'd you leak to? And how much did Barack Obama know?
And did you know that it was paid for by the DNC?
And I want to see who's actually getting this questionnaire exactly. People that used to work in and around, people that are still active, because a lot of people I really be interested in finding out their answers to these 10 questions.
We know 3.
Here's Congressman Devin Nunes.
This is we're having a showdown between the legislative branch and the executive branch. And just going to what you talked about to open up this segment, the facts are not bearing out to what the Democrats wanted it to be, because we have found collusion. We found collusion between the Democrats, specifically the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee and the Russians. However, it doesn't seem to be like that. Nobody's interested in that collusion. We've also found felony leaks. Nobody seems to be interested in getting to the bottom of the felony leaks. So it's part of what House Intelligence Committee, led by the Republicans, are trying to get to the bottom of, despite we're up against a lot of odds. We're not getting help from the Democrats in the House, and we're also not getting any help from the mainstream media.
If Robert Mueller really wanted to have a thorough investigation, if he wanted to actually bring the country together and solve a problem rather than look so partisan, which many people fear the final product will be, he would pick up where Devin Nunes left off. There's so much over here to examine. Being that these people stupidly gave him the most open mandate possible to investigate anything he ever wanted to, why is he, and I hope he is, and there's a small chance he is, why isn't he going down that path?
He could be, but we do know at least 3 people.
No indication he is, though.
Well, there haven't been a lot of leaks directly out of the special counsel's office, which to his credit is good. We do know of at least 3 people from the former administration's community that have gotten this particular letter. It's going to James Comey, it's going to James Clapper, it's going to John Brennan as well. And interestingly enough, you got to figure that it's also going to Jonathan Weiner. He's a former Barack Obama State Department official who wrote an op-ed last week in the Washington Post that said, yeah, I had access to the information in the Steele dossier. I did share it with different people. And he also admitted that this guy, Cody Shear, who had worked with the Clintons as well, he passed that information to the Intel and the FBI as well.
Well, Trey Gowdy, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Devin Nunes brings up a good point about collusion. He says it's not fair that President Trump is getting investigated by Mueller for collusion when there is proof that Hillary Clinton's campaign or the DNC and the Clinton Foundation used money, funneled it through Fusion GPS to pay for this dirty dossier to then spy on her opponent.
Right. And
there needs to be an investigation for that.
Right. And to your point earlier about what is Mueller doing, where are his arrests? I mean, where are his indictments? All it is people that were pursuing links with Russia before the election, and people maybe linked to Paul Manafort, who worked for Donald Trump intermittently over the summer. There's not been one arrest of somebody linked with the dossier at all on the left. So there might not be that many links, but there's certainly not many indications that he's pursuing this at all. Meanwhile, Trey Gowdy, who so many times asks questions, and you say to yourself, why is he asking that question? This is the question he asked to John Brennan in May of last year. 10 months later, it makes a lot more sense.
Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
I don't.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications, petitions, pleadings?
I have no awareness.
Okay, so what are they getting at? Are they trying to reveal a deep state? We've heard that term used a number of times between the former administration and trying to collude, there's that word again, to make sure that Donald Trump never became president?
It's actually not a mystery. It is this. Did you use it? Did you see it? Do you know about it? Don't think so. Not sure. It doesn't ring a bell. Fine. We're going to find out if it rings a bell. Either that or you had a secretive CIA that were keeping the director from knowing any information, because there's reason to believe that the CIA had some of this information.
Well, this letter that Nunes is sending out, he's saying if you don't give us these answers in a timely manner, there will be subpoenas, and we will find out if John Brennan really did know something and who else knew something.
All right. Meanwhile, let's talk about Nancy Pelosi. The Democrats are in a pickle right now because, as we told you yesterday, there's a New York Times poll out that shows that a majority of Americans like the Republicans' middle class tax cut. They like it a lot. Unfortunately for Democrats, none of them voted for it, and that's why Nancy Pelosi now is saying that thing unpatriotic.
If what you're doing is cutting the taxes at the high end and therefore not being allowed to invest in the future, You're doing a grave disservice to our country. Some patriots.
So
those crumbs.
Tax reforms are apocalyptic. The bonuses are crumbs, which was so insulting. Tax cuts now unpatriotic.
You know the personal rates have been dipped lower in the middle and lower class and lower class end. He knows there's only a 2% decrease on the higher bracket. And the bottom line is, in this country, those with the most money, who make the most money, might actually get the most back in a tax cut. And the theory is because people who are make the most money will take that money and hire more people, give out more bonuses, and expand their businesses, providing more opportunity. And that's what we have seen happen. I don't know what economic principles she's basing her theories on.
I know.
You know what's unpatriotic? When we send our money to Washington, D.C., and they waste it.
Well, some heckler interrupted her and said, "Really? How? You know, the quote was, she said, God does not intend for some to live in wealth and some to live in poverty." This heckler says, "Well, how much are you worth? Do you live in poverty?"
Right.
And then the article I read said that her husband is he's a venture capitalist. He's worth $100 million.
Right.
No kidding.
That's why she thinks $1,000 are crumbs.
And her answer is, oh, I have 5 kids. I'm used to you're not going to be able to shout me down. One has nothing to do with the other. We heard it.
All right. 12 minutes after the top of the hour. Caught on camera, police rushing to save a woman who was trapped inside a burning building. Look at this.
Come on, get out! Jump! This place is gonna... You gotta get out! Come on!
How that one ends, we're going to tell you coming up.
And President Trump just unveiled a new option for health insurance. Democrats call it junk, but it's going to cost a lot less. So what's the problem with it? Dr. Mark Siegel doesn't see one.
The Trump administration unveiling a lower cost option for health care.
Premiums doubled before the end of the Obama administration.
Nice.
So individual market premiums have soared. So for many people, the plans are not affordable to get, and what they get may not be real insurance and good enough. These less expensive plans, often 1/3 the price of Obamacare plans, might be a good option for them.
But Democrats are already attacking the plan, calling it junk. And here to break it all down for us is Fox News contributor Dr. Mark Siegel. Dr. Siegel, thank you for being with us.
Great to see you, Aisley.
Is this junk?
No, and I actually would start where Alex Azar just did, which is look what we have already. Under a current bronze plan, a single person, it's a $6,000 deductible, $12,000 for...
And that's the cheapest plan under Obamacare.
Right.
You can get the bronze or the silver, and the bronze is the cheaper one.
Under the cheapest, it's a $12,000 deductible for a family. So but you get to the doctor's office, you can't even use the thing. And premiums for a single person at the age of 30 is now averaging in 2018 $400 a month. How many 30-year-olds you know can afford that? So it's really on paper insurance coverage, but in reality you're not getting any real health care. So I think he's right. So what the Trump administration is now offering are skinny plans. If you don't want to pay for the other, you don't want to get forced into this essential benefits coverage where you're paying for older, sicker people basically, and you are mortgaging your future for that as a young person. Now maybe you can get something with a lower premium, cheaper, and it doesn't cover as many things.
Who would be opposed to that? The Democrats maybe are because they're in favor of Obamacare and they don't want it to fail, but this allows Americans to have more choices. 30-year-olds can afford this new plan, the skinny plan.
Absolutely, Ainsley, and people may actually sign up for this that before we're taking the penalty, that we're saying, I can't afford a premium of $5,000 a year. I'm going to pay the penalty. Now you might actually get them into the insurance market, which could bring down overall premiums. Now, these are only for 1 year. And they're only, right now, they're just a proposal. But I think it's a really good idea. Now, the question's going to come, how do you cover people with pre-existing conditions? They may have to pay more. But that's where I've always thought government subsidies should come in. Let the government subsidize the sickest instead of asking healthy young people to subsidize them.
Right. So the president has said, I'm going to allow insurance companies, I'm going to allow them to have their own skinny plans, and they can come up with what those plans will be, correct?
And that's what, right, and that's what an economy is all about. You're going to get more middle-level insurance companies back in the game. Right now, we've talked for the last year about how you go to the marketplace and there's only Blue Cross Blue Shield, only one insurer left. Well, if you could offer more options, you're going to get more insurers to offer these skinny plans. That means more competition. That means more choice. That means lower premiums. I think this will actually help stabilize the individual market.
So where do we go from here? You said it's just a proposal right now.
Well, because the individual mandate is still in place for the rest of this year. The public gets to vote on this for the next 60 days and to say, what do you out there think about it? I think you out there should like this because it's going to give you a choice of lower premiums and lower cost and maybe the health care you actually need. Then it will become law. Then it will become a regulation that will be in place. And I actually think it's a really good idea. Individual mandate is going next year. When it's gone, we need things in its place. We need insurance that works if you go to the emergency room and you're having a heart attack. That's what health insurance is intended for.
Dr. Siegel, you're a good man. Thank you so much for being here. Still ahead, a mystery at sea. This newlywed vanishing during a honeymoon cruise. And now someone's been charged with murder. And the president honoring 12 of the nation's finest at the White House, including our next guest, a deputy who responded to the San Bernardino terror attack. So what was it like meeting the president?
Just for one day, we can be heroes.
Welcome back. We have a Fox News alert. A former officer of the month gunned down in the line of duty in Alabama overnight. Mobile police officer Justin Bila was shot responding to a murder investigation.
The hardest thing that we'll ever do as law enforcement officers is talk about the death of one of our own. And this is a sad time for law enforcement here in our area with the Mobile Police Department. So again, just be patient.
The suspect, Robert Hawley, opened fire on officers. He then barricaded himself inside a home for hours. He is now dead. It's unclear if he was shot by police or if he killed himself. Nikki Haley standing firm on President Trump's decision to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. The U.S. ambassador to the UN is snapping back at comments made by a Palestinian leader earlier this month that she should, quote, shut up.
I will decline the advice I was recently given by your top negotiator, Saeb Erekat. I will not shut up. Rather, I will respectfully speak some hard truths.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas left the chamber before her address. An historic and secret meeting supposed to happen between U.S. Vice President Mike Pence and North Korean officials at the Winter Olympics was canceled at the very last minute. The Vice President's office confirming the cancellation, saying, quote, North Korea dangled a meeting in hopes of the Vice President softening his message, which would have seeded the world stage for their propaganda during the Olympics. Brian?
All right, thanks, Jillian. President Trump commending the bravery of some of the nation's first responders in the ceremony at the White House yesterday.
When terrorists attacked defenseless employees of the San Bernardino Department of Public Health, 6 of the heroes with us today chased them down and put an end to their sinister rampage, which was going to get a lot worse. When faced with danger, they each put the lives of others before their own.
It was, and 12 are honored overall, 6 in attendance, and one of them is with us right now. It is Sean Wallen. He's a deputy over in the San Bernardino area and joins us to talk about that day and talk about yesterday, which was a great day. But looking back at that Christmas party that was broken up when 2 terrorists killed 14 and wounded 22, including you, Sean, what do you remember about that?
Just going to the actual scene of the shooting and seeing the people who came in attendance that day to go to a Christmas party and ended up not making it home. The 14 victims and the 20 other that were wounded.
So you find yourself taking out 2 people that we find essentially, this is something Navy SEALs usually do, Army infantry usually do. Now it's taking place in the Inland Empire in California. And you guys helped take out Saeed Rizwan Farouk and his wife Tashin Malik, who had how much more weaponry in their car had you not taken them out on the road that day?
I don't specifically remember the amount of ammunition, but there was a large amount of 9mm rounds as well as 223 rounds. Which were the weapons that they used during the assaults on the IRC and as well as the officer-involved shooting that took place on San Bernardino Avenue.
What's going through your mind as you came upon that car?
It was just, you have a job to do, and that's your job. And that day, all of us that were there on scene, and all of us that weren't there at the OIS, actually ended up having to put forth a little bit of effort to do the right thing and make the right decisions. And training definitely helped do that.
No question. And it's just so more and more law enforcement is at the tip of the spear because so many of these people are being radicalized here or radicalized elsewhere and coming here to kill Americans. And this time, you killed them. Sean, what can you tell us about yesterday and getting the honor from the President and the Attorney General in attendance?
It was a great honor. Not many people get to go to the White House, let alone get an award that very few have received since the award was started. And it was great to receive that award from the President and the Attorney General, and there were other politicians and executive people that were in attendance there.
Medal of Valor is now you because you were able to act with incredible bravery, and you took shrapnel in the leg in doing it. Is this why you signed up, to protect people, to stand up in the line of fire?
Yes, I think all of us do. No one knows what situation they're going to be put in every day, and that day, all of us that were there on scene did the right thing, and I think that's what everybody that puts on a uniform, whether it's police, fire, EMS personnel, everybody wants to do the right thing and hopefully comes out okay.
Right, and your interaction with the President, what was that like?
It was good. It was short and sweet. We did some pictures, and he interacted with us. The Attorney General was great, also interacted with us, and so we get to meet people that you see on TV all the time, and get to go to his house and meet him there and receive this great honor.
And it was one of yours, one of 12, 6 in attendance, and the Attorney General says we have you back. And that's certainly the feeling of the administration. And I can't help but notice when I open up FoxNews.com today, the first story, which Jillian just mentioned, Justin Biela was gunned down pursuing a murderer. He was killed in the process last night. So you guys are really under attack on a daily basis, and I hope you know how much we appreciate what you do. Thanks so much for joining us, Sean.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, Deputy Sean Wallen, Medal of Valor winner, recipient. Meanwhile, straight ahead, Nancy Pelosi gets an earful as she slams the president's tax cut bonuses.
But most people have to struggle to make ends meet. So no, we're not talking about.
Yeah, and how much are you worth? It turns out small businesses, by the way, are thriving because of those horrible tax cuts. Armageddon. Our panel of owners, small business owners, here to discuss that next. And when was the last time you saw a ballerina wearing a badge, gun, and full police uniform? The officer-daughter dance, now going viral.
Most people are not in deadening poverty, but some are. But most people have to struggle to make ends meet. So no, we're not talking about that. No. So in any event, now I can I'm a mother of 5. I can speak louder than anybody.
I don't think she exactly answered the question, did she? House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi there at a Texas town hall yesterday heckled as she was slamming President Trump's tax cuts. This is small business confidence hits a record high because of that new law. CNBC and SurveyMonkey did a poll. Their small business confidence index for the first quarter saw an increase of 5 points from 57 to 62. I believe that is a record. Joining us right now is a panel of small business owners. Gene Marks, a far left right there, certified public accountant and a small business advocate. Dr. Michael Tischler is in the center. He's the founder of Teeth Tomorrow. And Jennifer Knapp is the co-owner of Woody's Roadside Tavern. We've got a nice variety of different points of view here. Jennifer, tell us about how the tax cut has impacted you at Woody's.
Well, I'm really excited because with being an LLC, that 20% pass-through income deduction, I'm going to see more people coming through my door. I'm going to be able to put more money back into my business, and again, I can pay my employees a better wage, which means employee retention,
sure,
and a better quality of labor.
I understand, and you're at a different scale, but you were able to afford a brand new ice machine, which means a lot of your business.
It does. It's a big piece of equipment. We've been putting a Band-Aid on it forever,
right,
and now I feel confident that I'll be able to spend that money.
Doesn't sound like Armageddon to me.
No.
All right, Doctor, how about your business?
I would say overall the consumer confidence is what I'm seeing
with patients and the doctors using our lab, because we have 3 businesses. We have a national franchise, in private practice, and a dental lab, and all 3 I just see an uptick.
Why is that? People feel like they've got more money in their pocket?
Well, Gina and I were just talking about that. I think there's definitely consumer confidence there. Money's more available. The whole tone in the economy is just so different. You know, I was looking back to 2008, and it was like, and we were talking about, you would think a dentistry is recession-proof. But it was a little scary back then. I mean, patients were really doing the bare minimum. What we do are larger implant full mouth reconstruction cases, and that's a good barometer. Looking at this.
Because if people feel they've got a little extra money, then it's kind of like, well, maybe I could have that wisdom tooth replaced, because it costs a little money.
Well, yes.
Not crumbs, but it does cost a substantial amount.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Gene, what did you think?
Well, I mean, look, as a CPA, we have about 600 clients in our practice. Most of them are small and medium-sized businesses. And across the board, everybody is a big thumbs up about a tax cut. And how can you not be, right? I mean, when people say, like, oh, we're not getting enough a tax cut or it's not benefiting, it's the first tax cut we've seen in recent memory. Yeah. And for a business owner, that's a big thing. And so where people are taking advantage of, they can invest more in capital equipment. They can put up to $1 million now and buy equipment now and get deductions for it. If you own pass-through businesses like an S corporation or a limited liability company, you get like a 20% deduction right off the top, and then it comes through down to your income tax return at lower rates as well. Right. And then there are other incentives that are given for small business owners. So it's a great environment and more pro-business than we have seen in recent years.
And now that the withholding has changed, people are actually starting to see more money in their pocket. Right. It's interesting. I think the Democrats did a really good job in the run-up to this passing to make people think this is going to be the end of the world. It's not going to impact anybody. They did a poll recently, and 1 in 5 thought they would actually see a tax cut. As it turns out, of the middle-class people, and you know this, 91% of them are going to wind up with a tax cut.
They are. And, my only concern is that we're going to really see the benefits of it once we do our 2018 taxes. But that's not going to be until the end of 2018. So we're even seeing some benefits now, but just wait until the end of the year when you do your returns. It'll really kick in what a benefit this is.
Doctor, looks like you have something to say there.
And not specifically about the actual cuts themselves. And once again, I mean, what we're seeing is an amazing upturn. And when you see such a scope between what we have with a national franchise, a local practice, and a national lab, it's a good barometer. I mean, that just shows, and it's,
And I know you're not, none of the 3 of you are really political per se, but does this hurt the Democrats that they didn't get on board with this?
Again, I don't know if it hurts them or not, because I think the Democrats will make their arguments why, the tax cuts are not benefiting the people.
Okay, then let me turn it
be.
around. Does it help the Republicans?
Yeah, it definitely helps the Republicans. My only issue, the midterms are in November, and I still believe that a lot of us aren't going to fully see the benefits until we do our returns at the end of the year, and I think that's the only risk for Republicans.
All right. Gene and Dr. Tischler and Jennifer Knapp, we thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. It is about 20 minutes before the top of the hour. Let's go up to Jillian. She's got some headlines.
That's right. Good morning to you, Steve, to you at home as well. The Army honoring 3 young heroes who died in the Florida school shooting. JROTC cadets Peter Wang, Martin Duke, and Elena Petty all receiving heroism medals. And Cadet Wang's dream is coming true after he sacrificed his life to save his classmates. West Point admitting Wang posthumously to the class of 2025 after he helped students escape during the massacre. The Academy says Wang showed its values of duty, honor, and country. A man claiming his newlywed wife disappeared at sea after a boat crash, now charged with her murder. The FBI says 41-year-old Lewis Bennett killed Isabella Hellman and tried to make it look like an accident. The 2 were on their honeymoon. Bennett was arrested during sentencing for another crime, stealing $100,000 worth of coins from a ship. Hellman's body has never been found. Brave police officers go into a burning building to save a woman trapped inside. The heart-stopping rescue caught on body camera.
Got her, grab her. Jesus.
Indiana cops pulling down the woman hanging from a second-story window. 7 people were hurt in the fire, including 2 cops. Come to your screen and watch this. It's not very often you see a ballerina dressed in a full police uniform. Demi-plie and straight. Look at those moves. Colorado officer Cody Brown was late to his daughter Tessa's bring dads to dance class. He didn't have time to change, so he did all the moves in full uniform. Isn't that impressive, guys?
So cute.
Those uniforms must be Lycra, because if they were traditional khaki, they would rip.
Well, wouldn't we rather see him in the police uniform than a leotard? Just saying.
Right.
Remember, we saw that
Good point.
a couple of weeks ago.
Some people
so
look better than others in leotards.
I love that. See, he's comfortable in his own skin.
Right.
The guys are going to make fun of him, but I think it's great.
All right, Jillian, thank you very much.
Yep.
Now let's go over to Janice, who's got some good news. It's going to be approaching hot today in New York City.
We'll see. We might hit 70 degrees, and I heard that Brian's daughter is coming in today on Fox and Friends.
Oh, really?
Maybe he will do some plies with her.
No, she's more of a soccer player, thankfully.
Okay.
Not much of a dancer.
We'll ask her.
It runs in the family.
Maybe she'll do weather with me at 7:30 too.
There you go.
I'm gonna try to do it.
Well,
All right,
we'll
let's
see.
do it. Multi-talented family. Okay, cold front. Look at how we're dealing with 29-degree temperature change from this time yesterday. We have this cold front that's going to bring not only the potential for heavy rain, freezing rain, sleet, and the potential for snow, but it is going to stall out and it is going to bring the potential for, days of rain, unfortunately, across the Mississippi, Ohio, and Tennessee River Valley. We'll see if New York gets up to 70 degrees. I don't know if we're going to, but it's going to be warm. It's going to be record warm across the East Coast.
I say 72.
Okay.
72 in Central
Brian's
Park.
taking the under.
Well, I know what I would think. If we do pass it, we all should get medals or trophies as a country.
Oh,
All
okay.
right, so 72. I'll go with 70. You're going to go with 68.
Right. I'm going to go with
And are we
60.
going to see Brian doing some plies?
Plies and thank you. All right.
Not a dancing family. I told you. Kill me, don't dance.
That'll make it even better.
All right.
Meanwhile, still ahead on this busy Wednesday, Democrats like Maxine Waters have called for President Trump's impeachment since day one over and over. But our next guest says that only helps Republicans as we